Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Forbidden Door opened and closed, at least for this year anyway. It didn't fail not to disappoint. It was a fantastic show. But we're going to talk about the aftermath of Forbidden Door on the show today, and with it being AEW. Of course, realistically, we should be swapping shirts, but I do let our co-host have some free merchandise and some free what do they call it? Sponsors on this, and or some free what do they call advertising? That's the word. WLV's heating very own Mr. Dave Robinson. How are you, mate?
I'm really good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well, for a Monday, not too bad. Not it is Monday after all, but we got England got through the other day, so that yesterday, so that kind of sweetened the blow a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah,
make it
yeah.
very hard work for.
And the quarterfinals are Saturday night.
So's another show that we'll be watching as well on Saturday night, but we'll get into that later on in the week. Let's just Forbidden Door. I mean, overall, man, it was really good. I think the pay-per-view as a whole. My only and I think I've said this before. My only criticism is if you're watching Zero Hour and that show, I always find myself very tired by I mean, this was 14 matches. It was like your fantasy booking of Forbidden Door last
Yeah.
year that you done. It was just for me, it's just too many matches, I think. I don't know what you think on it.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree. 40 matches is too many. I mean, one of the matches was a Kyle Fletcher squash match, which,
Serpentico.
I mean, we don't need to see that. I mean, Kyle Fletcher is an amazingly performing amazing talent, top performer. But if unless he's going to be in something meaningful, um, 'cause he seems to lose a lot on his big matches on Dynamite and stuff. And I know some of
Yeah.
those matches against the likes of Osprey, but which are matches that you wouldn't expect him to win. But he needs to be booked stronger on your weekly show for me, not just get a squash match on a pay-per-view pre-show. So, I mean, it's a difficult task for them at AEW, not just Tony Khan, but the whole team to keep everybody happy. You're not just involving New Japan, you're involving CMLL, you're involving Stardom, and there's only so many competitors you can get on. And perhaps a show such as this one, our ideal kind of match, like 6 to 8, maybe that's going to be difficult to achieve when you've got four companies to get on. But 14 is way too many. And I think any more than two matches on a pre-show is too many as well for me. Um, I'm quite happy with a pre-show hyping up the main card and perhaps one match to get things going. Two is the limit. Four pre-show matches is just
Well, five technically in this one.
well, yeah, of course. But by the time people get to the first match, you're already kind of on the sixth match, which is the ideal length for many people of a standard pay-per-view is probably 6 or 7 matches.
Yeah.
So I do totally agree with you. As much as I want to see, uh, as much good wrestling as possible, too much of a good thing
Yeah.
is a thing, if you like.
Yeah. Get it. I mean, an idea could have been to have like a Forbidden Door week. I know they did to a degree on
Yeah.
Dynamite and Collision this week, but they could have just done a whole, made it as into a week and done and finished it with 8 matches maybe and had the others scattered around
Yeah. uh,
Dynamite.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, that might have been a better way to do it. And they did have some involvement on Dynamite and
Hmm.
Rampage Collision, but maybe Forbidden Door could be a 2 night event, given the fact that you've got so many companies involved. And
Hmm.
to book an arena for a night, if you've got everything set up, would it be beyond the realms of possibility to kind of have it over 2 nights? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know that's what WWE I've obviously done with WrestleMania and what they'll be doing with SummerSlam. Wouldn't surprise me in the future for them to make the Royal
No.
Rumble over 2 nights as well. So maybe that's something that AEW could potentially do. I don't know, but I think 14 matches is one in one night is really difficult for us as a viewer watching on TV and fans in the arena to kind of stay excited for. I don't know,
Yeah, yeah, definitely so. Too
it's
many.
quite fatigued at times, the crowd.
Yeah, I think so. I joined them, to be fair. I was fatigued. Yeah,
Yeah.
not that it wasn't a good show.
Yeah.
To it a little bit. I want to start obviously. MJF kicked off the show this week, or kicked off Forbidden Door with here we go. He Chikero.
Hechicero.
Oh, come on, come on. Okay, Hechicero.
That's it.
We got it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. He won. He obviously, listen, MJF won. He did say at the start, he did say like when he returned, he'll be taking on a random Japanese or a random Mexican guy, which turned out to be true. Um, what happens with MJF now? I mean, we're not going to. I know he had the altercation. Well, he didn't have an altercation. They had like a face off with Osprey recently. He isn't going back into the World Championship picture right away because the winner of the Owen gets it. I'm speculating that he's not going to be the wild card on this occasion. There's a couple of names I'll throw out there that might be, but it's not going to be him. The Devil storyline has just seemed to have died. There's been no Adam Cole. He hasn't yet gone after any of the Devil's, whatever we called them. What were they called before? Do you remember what they were called? I can't remember. Anyway, he hasn't gone after any of the Devil's friends, of the people that
Yeah.
the people that are involved in the storyline. What happens with MJF now?
I think they're going to go towards Osprey. I think that's the story they're telling. Some of the results on this pay-per-view as well. We'll get to the main event, but that kind of opens up MJF Osprey. Given given who else is in the tournament and given that the winner of the Owen Hart tournament gets a world title shot at All In, as you say, that's not going to be MJF, and it doesn't look like Osprey is going to be in that title picture. Um, we got Daniel Garcia involved in it as well, so I can't imagine them building to a triple threat between those three. But it was kind of strange that MJF offered the match to Garcia, and it was never really kind of they didn't shake hands or anything. Osprey came out to kind of interrupt and upstage MJF, which they've made a big deal of. But I think that's your big match, MJF against Osprey. I think that's a huge match for the company. Um, yeah, but there's some other components which I don't know how they all fit in at the minute. In terms of the mystery, the Joker pick for the tournament, the wild card pick, I think that's going to be Hangman Page.
Yeah.
There was I don't know if you saw on Collision, they did show a little
Yes.
vignette of Hangman. And they showed the Elite in that as well, but the
Did.
Elite actually sacked Hangman, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I'm not 100% how they're going to tell that story if it is the Young Bucks' his pick and they're bringing him back in. Um, so there's some questions to be answered there as well. But I can see Swerve against Hangman at All In for the title. I can see
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see MJF Osprey. Um, I'm not sure where Danielson fits in. Danielson's another favorite for the tournament.
Hmm.
Um, but I think Swerve Hangman is now the favorite to be headlining All In.
Yeah,
Um,
it makes a lot of sense now. You've said that. Obviously, the feud, and they did have the part of the Hangman thing was in the kid's bedroom, right?
yeah, yeah, it was.
So yeah, of course, it makes so much more sense now. Hangman and Swerve go to battle at Wembley for the
Yeah,
title. That is an interesting point. My thing was, and I would when it goes back to MJF, I was thinking more of, does he get involved in the Team AEW Team Elite Blood and Guts, which is coming up pretty soon as well? I didn't know if they may go down that route first because we've got a little bit of time before All In, haven't we?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We got a couple of months really. because it's right at the end of August. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got a good 8 weeks of build at least.
Mm.
There's not a show in between in terms of pay-per-view.
No, beach breaks this week, isn't it?
That's it. We got a few. I don't know if there's more than one, but there might be a couple of like themed Dynamite, so big episodes of Dynamite. I think the match we're going to get at Dynamite this week, which I'm really looking forward to, is Pac and Danielson. I think that's going to be like, yeah, in your words, a take my money match.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it is. I mean, obviously, Brian Danielson beat Takagi this last night at Forbidden Door as well. So it'd be interesting when they go with that.
yeah,
We're going to talk about the timeless Tony Storm. Now, she won against, fuck's sake, Mina Shirakawa.
Jericho. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, that's close enough.
Thanks. Cheers.
I'm not perfect with that. I'll stop at Mina, to be honest. I'm a bit of a coward with her name at the minute,
Right,
so I'll
I'm
stop
going
at
to
Mina.
stick with that. I'm going to go with Mina. Now obviously the Mariah may think she was at ringside. She's still with both. They all sort of hugged and kissed at the end, or whatever you want to call it, and then walked away. However, early in the night, Mariah May picks up the victory over Saraya and goes on further to the Owen Hart. Is this setting up Mariah May, Tony Storm All In at Wembley in 8 weeks?
Could well be, yeah, and the crowd are definitely into Mariah. So, and they're telling a really good story with her as well. I've liked this whole kind of with the three of them, and they seem to be aligned. I hope that Mina sticks around in AEW for a while. I hope she doesn't disappear now. I know she's part of Stardom, but I think there's still a lot of story to be told, and her involvement has been interesting. But yeah, to work towards that match, and I don't know how they would do it at the minute, whether there would be a turn as such, or whether it would be a master apprentice type situation,
Yeah.
and we'll see. We'll see how they build to that. But yeah, that match would make a lot of sense. And obviously, it's looking like we're going to get another big women's match as well, with returning Britt Baker. But I'm sure we'll discuss that in a minute. But there's some real big marquee matches there for the women's division at All In as well.
Yeah.
Um, I think Mariah as well, being from the UK. Um, and given not just the fact that last year we saw Saraya win the title in the UK, which was a great moment, but we said at the time perhaps didn't make too much sense in terms of the story and everything. It was a little bit kind of thrown together. Maybe there was plans for Jamie Hayter initially, but it was still great, and we liked it. We thought it was a good moment for Saraya, and given the fact that we thought her career was over a few years ago, for her to kind of get that big moment in Wembley with all the family there was great. But I think this year, given the build that Mariah's had and the story they've told with Tony Storm, I think that could create an even bigger moment should Mariah win the title there.
Yeah, I think so. I'll be looking forward to that. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I do want to just go Zack Sabre Jr. I'm going to change subject a minute.
Yeah,
Zack Sabre Jr. and Orange Cassidy was by the way a great sort of 15-minute match. Zack Sabre Jr. come across very articulate back in his little interview that he does. The pre-show, the after show, or whatever you call it.
yeah,
He done a very good, very articulate interview. I want to be interesting though. It was Orange Cassidy, the wrestler, in this. It wasn't necessarily Orange Cassidy, the gimmicky wrestler.
yeah,
That is an interesting one for me because obviously a lot of people, and MJF gets it as well. I don't always think that MJF and Orange Cassidy get the in-ring credit that they deserve. MJF because he's more of a promo guy, and he does do a lot of the promos, and when he does drop the promos, the views go crazy. Orange Cassidy's definitely more of this sort of comedy style wrestler. But when these both get in the ring, and these were separate matches, so Orange Cassidy took on probably the best technical wrestler in the world. But when Orange Cassidy physically does wrestling, he can go with the best of them.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, and this was a great example of that. And putting him in there against Zack Sabre Jr. Um, it was a match that I'd really look forward to, and one that I thought would deliver, and it absolutely did. I think we got the right winner and it looks like that Orange perhaps is going to go in a bit of a different direction with his character, maybe a version of Orange that we haven't seen before in AEW. I'm not necessarily saying a full heel turn, but I think he seemed quite reflective after the match, as if there's, because it's a few big matches now that he's come up short in. So perhaps something's got to change. But I think Zach winning was the right thing, because you do as well. You don't just want one company, no matter where it is, if it's in the States or in Japan, you don't want one company winning them all. You want it to be competitive, and
Hmm.
you want the best of New Japan represented and win those big matches as well. And we saw a pretty good split, I thought, in terms of winners and losers across the companies.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was one that I was certainly glad that Zack Sabre Jr. picked up the win, and I would really hope that Zach. We speculated last year for All In. Obviously, Zach being from the UK as well. I know that AEW have got a lot of stars that they there all year round and deserve a spot on the card. But we've seen Zack Sabre Jr. in AEW a few times now, and I would like him to even down the line maybe not necessarily sign with the company, because I think New Japan is the perfect for his style, and I
Yeah.
like I like when he comes in, and it's special when he comes in. But yeah, I think it would be great to have Zack Sabre Jr. at All In.
Yeah, I'd love to see him all in. I mean, he has got, funny enough, the night before at Rev Pro, he's got I'm not going to say his name again because I got it wrong the first time. You corrected me. I got it right the second time. The guy that took on MJF,
Sarah.
that's him. He's got him the night before
Yeah,
Rev Pro. So it's, listen, if he's there, you use him. I think Zach was quoted in an interview basically saying he's Rev Pro until he finishes. Not Rev Pro, he's New Japan until he's done. Is pretty
yeah.
much. But yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I'd love to see him at All In, and he's in the country. He's wrestling at the Copper Box
Yeah.
before, so
Even if it was a multi-man match or something, I'm not necessarily saying he's got to be going after a title or something, but I'm sure if there's a multi-man match, Zack Sabre Jr. could be involved in it, and yeah, that you get a huge reaction in the UK.
yeah, I think he would. I'd like to see him go over there. I'd like to see him wrestle All In. That'd be great for sure. The Learning Tree had Jeff Cobb as part of it this
Yeah.
time. They actually had, I think it's the first defeat as a group. I know they haven't done a lot together. I know they've not been together long. Hook, Samoa Joe, and Shibata were the three guys that beat him. And I don't know with this. I just felt like whoever won this, the other it's kind of like a lose-lose for me, because they're both these two trios, or obviously a trio, and they had Jeff Cobb. I'm not quite sure. I know Jeff Cobb put out an open challenge. Brian Keith probably would have been the logical choice here. Maybe Jeff come in. I'm not saying add a 15th match to the card, but Jeff Cobb could have slotted in elsewhere. But I didn't think this match, it was actually quite a good match, to be fair. But in terms of doing the teams any favors, I don't think it did, because whoever lost it is really going to lose a bit of momentum.
Yeah, and I was hoping Jeff Cobb would have that match against Lance Archer that we thought, that rematch.
Yeah.
We were really hopeful of that, having Lance on the podcast recently.
Mhm.
He seems to have disappeared again, unfortunately. But given Lance's involvement with AEW and New Japan,
Mm.
I thought it would have made a lot of sense for him to be involved in Forbidden Door. But um, I liked Jeff Cobb because they're selling the injury of Brian Keith, aren't they?
Yeah.
With the so Jeff Cobb coming in as a replacement, kind of, he's got history with Jericho. He's helped out the Inner Circle years ago.
Mhm.
Probably going back 4 years, maybe 5 years to the when AEW first started out. He was involved in that story with Jericho, and we've seen Jeff Cobb a few times in the company. I would love a Jeff Cobb versus Samoa Joe match. I would really kind of be interested in that, whether they can make that happen on a Dynamite or something in the coming weeks. In terms of the learning tree, I really, really like it, and I
Yeah.
know a lot of people still don't, and a lot of people. I mean, the crowd were quite kind of all over Jericho, and they were saying
Mhm.
play retire, and there is definitely this term that's been bandied about, this go away heat.
Yeah.
They were talking about it on Busted Open. Tommy Dreamer addressed it, and it's like, if he had go away heat, then he just wouldn't be booked on the show. And the fact that he's getting such
Yeah.
reactions, kind of proves that it's working to a degree. It's getting under people's skin. I'm actually quite entertained by it, and I think it's the best stuff Jericho's done since his Le Champion stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the right winner. I've enjoyed the Hook, Shibata, and Joe trio, and I think Hook picking up the win over Jericho. I like that. I don't necessarily want Hook to go after the FTW title. You see, I don't want him to
Mhm.
kind of just unless they're going to kind of recognize the FTW title as a title. I don't really know what the end game is with it. I don't really. When you've got the international title and you've got New Japan titles and you've got such as on this show, um, you know, New Japan titles, Ring of Honor. There's just too many titles, and
Mm.
for me, I don't see much progression with Hook recapturing that title. I
No.
don't really see what he gets from it. But perhaps Hook picking up the win over Jericho here can kind of put an end to that feud. Um, and then they can move in a different direction. But I don't know. I like the learning tree. I think Big Bill as well. I think he's doing a great job. I think he's so funny and so entertaining. I don't know if it was on Dynamite or Collision when they faced Private Party. I think it was Dynamite.
It was Dynamite. Yeah.
And when Private Party came out, Big Bill was like dancing
Yeah.
like during their entrance. And I just think he's got really good comedic timing. He's a big guy that we've criticised AEW for how they've utilised big guys in the past, but I think they're doing a real good job with Big Bill. And this story is not going to last forever. Maybe Big Bill will turn on Jericho in the end. But I think what he's doing right now is pretty entertaining, and I'm enjoying it. I don't know what you think of the learning tree, but I don't see it want to turn over the channel or anything like that. Even the little vignettes backstage, I think they've been quite funny, a lot of them.
Yeah, initially I was hating all over it, but I want to be a branch on the learning tree now. I
Yeah.
found it really, I found it quite amusing, quite funny. The fact that he's embracing the chants as well, that's the one thing he's come out and he said sort of things about it. So yeah, I'm a keen guy of the learning tree. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Anyway, let's put it on that. But you mentioned championships in there, and you did mention the FTW Championship. We're going to move on to the TNT. For me, it was kind of a foregone conclusion the moment he was put in the match that Jack Perry would win this now. But the Elite hold all the well, not all the championships because they had a bloody hell of a lot of championships if they did hold them all. But every member of the Elite now holds a championship. Jack Perry's first was that his first singles title in AEW?
First recognised, yeah, he's been FTW champion, but we just said they don't kind of acknowledge that as a legitimate title. So yeah, first singles title. He's had tag gold as well with Luchasaurus.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's his most significant belt, or it's probably his biggest victory since he's been in the company, to be honest, to capture the TNT title.
Question I've got, and I don't like bringing up old news, but is this whole thing with Punk, has it worked out better for Jack Perry than he could ever imagine?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I didn't like during the Young Buck match, there was like the CM Punk
Yeah.
dueling back and forth, and could do without that, to be honest with you. But I think in terms of how it's worked out for Jack Perry, I mean, he looks like a star to me. He looks like a legitimate, he looks much closer to the main event scene and being a big star for the company than he ever has previously. And we've seen him in main events. We've seen him in that Four Pillars match. And nobody expected Jack to kind of win that Four Pillars match. But
No.
as you say, going into this TNT title match, this ladder match, I think we all expected him to win. The only outside chance, perhaps Takeshita could have picked it up, and there was definitely an appetite for the crowd as well, even though Takeshita's a heel and even though he's associated with Don Callis, I think just his ability and his talent is just recognised. So whether he's a heel or a babyface, the AEW fan base are always going to enjoy Takeshita, and you could see that when he climbed the ladder towards the end and it looked
Yeah.
like he was going to win. That Blue Thunder bomb as well through the two tables on
Yeah.
El Asmo. That was sick. That was just like perfectly executed. That was. Um, it looked. how do you put this? Because it looked really like dangerous, but it looked really safe. You
Yeah.
know, it just looked perfect the way of executing that move. Um, just brilliant. And I wouldn't have been disappointed if Takeshita would have picked it, but I think it made more sense given the elite, given the fact that the Young Bucks have got the tag titles, given the fact that Okada's got the
Continental.
Continental title. Yeah, for Jack Perry to complete that now um, makes for some more interesting stories and stuff going on. And as you say, we got the blood and guts match to look forward to as well. And having the elite all holding the gold, I think that's good. I enjoy that booking.
Yeah, me too. I think it's great. Jack Perry's been doing great. I would have liked Takeshita to win as well, to be fair. But we do have to hope Leo Rush is okay. Took a bit of a nasty one
Yeah.
during really going to that. So yeah, if you are injured, Leo, get well soon. If you're not injured, good, and hopefully you stay healthy because it didn't look that great on TV. Let's go to the other women's match now. This was the winner take all. It was TBS and it was the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Mercedes against Stephanie Vaquia. Jesus, these names, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm glad they only do this once a year. Anyway, that's for sure. We've got to be unbiased on this, haven't we? I mean, I think that's what we've always been. We've always, if we like something, we say it. If we don't like it, we don't say it. We say it. That's the nature of what we do. It's just an unbiased report of what we believe. I think in this match, Vaquia absolutely showed that Mercedes' weaknesses big time. And I think perhaps people have maybe hyped Mercedes up a bit more. I mean, I know, in the past, I've never been her biggest fan, WWE. No, I liked her, but I was never one of those that would say, well, she's brilliant. She, blah, blah. I always thought Charlotte Flair showed her up, and I don't even like Charlotte Flair. So, that's how I see it. I think Stephanie Vaquia in this absolutely showed her up. There were some sloppy moments in it, which was Mercedes' fault. That we're not wrestlers. Things happen. We know that it happens all the time. I don't think the match was done it well. I don't think the match itself done it as much justice as what it could have done during this anyway.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I thought Stephanie Vaquia I thought she was sensational. I mean, I saw a match against Lady Frost. I think that was on Collision, and that was the first time I'd seen her wrestle. But I was really, really impressed with her. She's very, very impressive wrestler. But you could tell that she's wrestling week in, week out, getting her reps in, and just really in form, if you like, or just whereas Mercedes hasn't wrestled that much.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of it. I mean, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was good. I think we both suspected, or not just suspected, expected Mercedes to be leaving with those two titles. Um, but I think similar to the Takeshita reaction, I think the longer the match went on, the more and more the crowd appreciated Stephanie. There was Stephanie chants. I think people were really willing her to win. I know there was a little bit of kind of rivalry as well with Boston and New York.
Yeah.
There was a Celtics chance, I think. So I
F the
think,
Celtics.
yeah, so that played into the reaction Mercedes was getting as well. But I think partly it was just because people were so impressed by Stephanie, and a lot of the audience, at that show will have been familiar with Stephanie and seen her matches before. But I think wholly a solely AEW fan base, that might be the first time that they're getting to see her wrestle other than the match on Collision. So I think she really, showed that she's a star of the future. Unfortunately, there were a few mistakes and a few sloppy moments and a few things that didn't quite come off. Um, and I just think it's because Mercedes doesn't get in the ring enough. She doesn't have enough matches, and when she does, she's very good, and she could hold her own with Stephanie, but not on this night as much. So yeah, I see where you're coming from. I didn't hate the match or anything. It was all right,
No.
but it could have been better. And I think I would have preferred Mercedes to lose. But given the fact that she's going to go on to a big match and big stories within AEW, I suppose slightly hamstrung by the stipulation. It was a first defense as well, was it? Or
Yeah, pretty
no one.
much. Yeah,
So
first and second.
she was never going to drop the TBS title so soon. Either it was unlikely. So yeah, but yes, with regards to Stephanie Vaquero, I thought sensational, and I really do hope, whether it's just on these crossover shows or whether there's more opportunities to see her more in the future. She's somebody that I'd definitely look out for because I thought she was great.
Well, you can see her again if you go to the Rev Pro show at the Copper Box the night before All In, because she'll be wrestling
Yeah,
Danny Luna, I believe, maybe wrestling.
cool.
Maybe run that match back once Mercedes has cleared some of the cobwebs off, and then we'll see the real pro. I won't say the real Mercedes Moné, but we'll see the one that catapulted her to the stardom that she's got. However, that wasn't the end of proceedings in that match. Now, we saw at the end of this, Mercedes was celebrating, and then the Doctor will see us now. Britt Baker returned to AEW from what seemed like forever. She's been away. I know she's probably part of that was, I know she had an injury herself. I know there was a bit perhaps when she was looking after Adam Cole with his injury. But it looks like, and you mentioned it earlier, we're going to be getting Mercedes Moné, Britt Baker All in August when we're there. That for me is a match. I would, Mercedes, Britt is a pillar of AEW. So to have Mercedes going up against one of the best that AEW has to offer is going to be a very interesting and intriguing time by the time we get to All In.
Yeah, and I think the fan reaction perfectly played into what may happen, because you would imagine there the fans are going to be behind Britt Baker.
Mm.
That pop she got was a really great ovation, and I think that's what AEW do well. They do the returns well. They make a big deal of particularly the homegrown stars when they haven't been there for a while. We do get the big returns like MJF and Britt Baker now. That looks like it's going to be the match for All In, and that's a marquee match for me. When you got Mercedes Moné up against Britt Baker at Wembley, I think that's a huge match for the women's division. When you combine it with, as we spoke about earlier, Toni Storm, Mariah May, those there are your two women's championship matches for me. They're ready made. It's done now. So I hope there's space for more women on the card without trying to bloat the card too much, and that we don't want 14 matches. Um, but in terms of the championship matches, I think those two one-on-one matches with story as well, as we said earlier, there's 8 weeks or so to build towards that. Britt is fantastic on the mic. I
Yeah.
think the promos that she can cut and the material that she's got to work with, I think it will make for some really good heated exchanges. And yeah, she looked in fantastic condition as well.
Yeah.
She looked, she's always looked incredible, but I think she's been working out really hard, and you could see that when she came out, she was in the shape of her life.
She's been doing DDP yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of her in DDP. So she's definitely been doing DDP yoga, which seems to work really well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think the build will be good. Just getting around to All In to see that would be very, very interesting to see how they build it up. I think the promos will be great, and let's get to All In and watch them go at it for sure. Guy that I'm wondering what's going to happen at All In is Jon Moxley. He obviously lost the IWGP Heavyweight Championship to Naito in this. Obviously, he's with the BCC. Danielson, I would assume, is going to be in a one-on-one match. I think last year, was he not in the Anarchy in the Arena? Last year, Moxley, I believe. Yeah, he was, because he got the spaghetti on his head, or whatever thing, or whatever it was on his head. Where do you see, where is Moxley now? Where do you see Jon Moxley? Because he's always been their go-to guy. With the champion's been injured, he's been the champion. He's always been their sort of go-to guy. Where does Moxley fit in at this moment in time at All In?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. The easy answer would be a multi-man match with the BCC. But I think Danielson's going to have a singles match.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought, given the fact that he's coming to the end of his full-time wrestling career. As to who Danielson faces, I don't know, but is Danielson Moxley the answer? And I know might sound strange to a few people, but that's obviously, as we know, how BCC first came about. It
Mm.
was them two going to war against each other,
Yeah.
and that would be a hell of a match. But we saw a bit of dissension with Claudio last week and Danielson, so I'm not suggesting that BCC is going to implode. Um, but would you be totally against a Danielson, Moxley, Claudio triple threat? Yeah, or even you could chuck Wheeler in there and you could have a four-way. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think even though we have got a couple of months, it would be a little bit rushed. But I don't know where he fits in the pick. I expected Naito to win. I didn't think that match was great. I think there was a few issues there, and I think probably as well what affected it for me is Moxley had that epic match against Takeshita,
Yeah.
which wasn't even for the title. It was like an eliminator match,
Yeah.
and the kind of amount of things that Moxley kicked out of in that, and he ended up getting the win, and it didn't seem too much of like a massive finish to that match. It was kind of Naito his finisher, and that was it. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Um, a result I expected, but just a bit of a strange one. I mean, at the start of the match, I think is it Naito going? No, Moxley was going after Naito's knees, and then he just
Yeah.
kind of like abandoned that strategy. So I don't think it was probably the match that they'd have wanted to have. It wasn't bad, but
No.
it wasn't a contender for match of the night for me, which given the talent in that match, it could have been. But I'm not quite sure where he fits in now. You got endless potential opponents for him to have a great match, but we want a bit more than that for him. We want a good story as well to go along with it.
Mm.
And they're kind of starting from scratch with him at the minute. He's not really feuding with anybody, is he? He's not got a
No.
title. Um, yeah, I can't imagine again him working his way back into the world title picture anytime soon. So
No.
yeah, maybe Danielson.
Maybe I've got Danielson McGuinness on my bingo card for
Yeah,
All In. I think that's been obviously with all the jabs that McGuinness has done on commentary. I feel as if that's the way they're going to go with Moxley. I have absolutely no clue. And then you've got to factor the potential other wild card of this is Ricochet. His WWE contract is now up. He could basically go on to Dynamite this week if he wanted to. He could be the wild card. Who knows? The Hangman thing could have been a good swerve, shall we say, on that. So, but let's talk about Swerve now. Him and Osprey delivered probably, I don't know, one of the best main events that I've ever seen
yeah,
in AEW, not just in AEW, but anywhere in wrestling. It was fantastic. I love the story. I love the emotion of it. I love the finish. The most interesting part for me was Osprey's refusal to take the screwdriver from Don Callis. Now, for me, this is starting, I think, well, could potentially be starting Osprey's exit from the family, potentially with Carl Fletcher and I forgive me, I can't remember the other guys. What's the other
Mark
Aussies name?
Davis.
Mark Davis, thank you. And maybe the start of the United Empire in AEW.
Yeah, yeah. I think that split has needed to happen for a while in terms of Osprey and Callis
Yeah,
because Osprey's come in and he's just been like so popular. It would be impossible really to book him effectively as a heel given the reactions he's been getting. Um, they've kept it ticking along quite nicely, and this finish I really like to be honest because we've seen Don Callis with that screwdriver before, and we've
yeah,
seen him use it before, and we've seen him encourage others to use it before, and it really aligned well with what Swerve had been saying that Osprey lacked that killer instinct. I I know he didn't hit the Tiger Driver, but he did try to. I would rather them stay away from that for a little while because I think that's still part of a bigger story with
yeah.
Danielson, um, which they'll get back to. Um, but I suppose if Osprey ultimately ends up hitting that to win the title, I can't imagine that would be on the Danielson though. So yeah, there's a lot of different stories and then a lot of factors, but I enjoyed Callis's involvement. I enjoyed how they booked the finish. I enjoyed as well although there was involvement from Callis, I don't think you could say Osprey was screwed as such. I know there was a ref bump and
Mm.
stuff, and he got the visual pin, but I think given how it played out, it was on the night. Swerve was the better man, and he hit his finishers, and it was a coin toss.
Yeah.
It landed on Swerve side, Yeah, I just think the match was incredible. The spots was incredible. The storytelling was incredible. The Swerve stomp to the outside.
Brilliant.
Um, if you'd have told me that move was going to happen, I wouldn't have been able to kind of get my head around how it was going to play out until actually seeing it. And what Osprey does is just on impact, he just hops up just enough so that the stomp hits him on the chest and he lands flat on the table.
Yeah.
I thought so well done. Yeah, this match delivered big time. It was one where we weren't sure in terms of which direction they were going to go because of All In and stuff and Will
Yeah.
and but I think it was absolute perfection, and it opens the door now. We saw MJF looking in, we saw Garcia looking in.
Yeah.
Garcia obviously involved straight away with Osprey on Wednesday for the international title. MJF obviously upstaged by Osprey, as we said, and there's unfinished business there as well. Swerve, we know he's going to face the winner of the tournament. Still question marks over who that wild card's going to be, but I think it will be. I can't see Ricochet against Jeff Jarrett. What I didn't realize, and when Jeff Jarrett was announced for the tournament, and we saw that vignette, is that he was going to be up against the wild card.
Yeah.
I really struggle to see how Jeff Jarrett progresses, as much as I want to, and as much as I would love that story. I would really like Jeff to kind of pick up a win or two, and perhaps even go to the final, not win the tournament, but I think given the story and the backstory and what we saw in that emotional video,
Yeah.
there was kind of mileage in something there. So there's a lot of going on. They can go in a lot of different directions, but I'm really enjoying some of the stuff that they've put together over the last few weeks and months. And I think All In's going to be a great show, as was Forbidden Door. In ring, I thought it was brilliant. I think there were some questionable things that happened,
Mhm.
some matches that could have been a little bit better, but I think the majority of the matches lived up to the expectations, and the main event was incredible.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. As a whole, I really enjoyed it. I just felt one too many matches for me, for sure. And they could have just taken 3 or 4 of them off. It would have, not that I wasn't invested. As I say, in-ring quality was there for pretty much all of it. Really enjoyed the show. Yeah, I'm wondering what, with Osprey, I'd like to say MJF, I think are All In, perhaps. That's kind of the way, but then Daniel Garcia, maybe a triple threat, who knows? Or I mean, I don't know. I'm not necessarily keen on it, but potentially you could do an Osprey and Cole Fletcher versus MJF and Daniel Garcia. It's a potential. I don't know, because I mean, Fletcher lost the championship, didn't he?
Yeah,
So he's not got a title either. Interesting to see. I don't. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Ricochet is going to be the wild card. I can see. I think it's Hangman seems the obvious choice. But then that poses another question, because we don't know where Hangman's going to ally himself with. Is there a potential that All In goes off the air and Hangman is with the Elite and they holding up pretty much all the men's championships?
yeah, could well do. Could well do. We could move in that direction. I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm really excited going into this build now for All In, because we've got some matches that seem to be locked in, and we're going to expect, particularly on the women's side. Um, but everybody involved in those big matches in the men's side, like all of the options are good. I mean, you've got Pac as well, but
Mhm.
he's due a big match at All In. He
Yeah.
had to unfortunately miss out last year, didn't he, because of
Yeah.
injury. So
Mhm.
to get Pac there, I'm sure that would be something. I think this match on Wednesday is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So Pac Ricochet, would be good, but it's again, as a match, we know that that's going to deliver. But in terms of story, we got House of Black as well, who picked up another
Yeah.
win on the
Yeah.
pre-show. So we've got the potential of bringing them back into something significant. There's a lot of talent there. There always has been. There always will be. I don't think Copeland is going to make it this year
No, he's not.
because of his injury.
Yeah.
But Christian and the Patriarchy. You've got the Bang Bang Gang as well. You've got all of the title matches are going to be awesome. Um, I just hope there's a few more good stories going into it, but I don't see any reason why not. There's a lot of irons in the fire, and people like Daniel Garcia, people like Jack Perry, they've really come good for the company. They really have, and I could see both of them being involved. I mean, I don't understand why they would flirt with a big match for Garcia against MJF and him then not be on the card, even if they did go in the MJF Ospreay direction. You would still feel that, given the fact that they've teased it and he wasn't on the card last year, I don't think that Daniel Garcia he's due a big match, and he's definitely got the crowd support as well. So it's going to be a solid card, mate, and I'm glad you could be bothered to get a ticket this year.
Madrid could be bothered. Mate, I would have been there last year. We know this. We're not going to bore you with that story again. But I would have been there last year. I will be there this year. You can rest assured about that. The other one I was thinking is they could do Daniel Garcia MJF and could do Will Ospreay Ricochet.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then you're right. Then they've only got the other 3,000 great wrestlers to get.
yeah, and yeah. That would, yeah, the MJF Garcia and maybe MJF Garcia would be for that international title. Maybe Ricochet costs Osprey on Wednesday,
Oh,
and because we're expecting MJF to cost Osprey perhaps, and that's how it's looking. But maybe Ricochet costs Osprey, and they two go on to have a match, and the international titles decided between MJF and Garcia. Don't
could
know.
be. Could be.
I don't hate that either, to be honest. But I think bringing Ricochet in as a heel would probably be a wise thing if he's going to go up against Osprey, because the popularity of Will. Um, but then we've still got the stuff with the Don Callis family, and that needs to be decided one way or another. That's going to be addressed, isn't it? The fact that
Yeah.
Callis tried to get involved, and in terms of Osprey's view of it, he could essentially say that it cost him the match. So it's going to be a big Dynamite, and it's a themed. Is it Shark Week, Beach Break, Shark,
Yes.
Shark? So
Yes.
it's something that they've historically, these kind of specials they go all out for, and yeah, I think it's going to be a really solid episode of Dynamite on Wednesday.
I think so. I'm really looking for. I do like these a lot of these themed episodes as well. They really do have a lot. So I think what we got, as you said, we've got Daniel Garcia, Will Ospreay, we've got uh, the semi-final Pac and Danielson. We've obviously got the quarterfinal with Jeff Jarrett and the mystery whoever it is, the Joker, the wild card. And I believe we've got Willow and we've actually got Willow and Statlander again.
Yeah,
I know Willow's team was bested Statlander this last night on Forbidden Door. Sorry if I'm not getting my words out. So they'll be coming in. So there's lots going on this week. They've got. When you was just talking then about it, they've got so much like talent there to fit on to All In. I mean, it it baffles me how they're going to do it. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just loads going on.
yeah, and I think the wrestling is it's kind of a given that there's going to be good wrestling matches, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think some of the stories have been really good, and I'd hope they can just continue to build on them now over the next few months. And we don't want like 6 matches announced the week before All In. We want a kind of a strong build where everything's set in stone. We don't need any last minute matches added to the post show or the pre-show. And they've got Dynamite and Collision in Cardiff the
Yeah.
week to it, so they can make a big deal out of that and get some people on those shows that aren't going to be on All In. They're going to be running All In every year, I would imagine. For right or wrong, for good or bad, I think that's what they'll be doing. So just like people that missed out last year, people that we spoke about, people like Pac, people like Garcia, they get their opportunity this year. And I think they need to just go with that. Trust the people that will be on the card, whether that's 8 matches, 9 matches, and just stick with it. You don't have to try and cram everybody onto it, because I think that does. I do think that affects the overall enjoyment of the show for people. So yeah, really looking forward to it, and definitely looking forward to Dynamite.
Yeah, me too. We've got a lot of lots of stuff to get on with. There's so much stuff going on this
No
summer.
Carter.
Yeah, I know. And with Young Bucks, Okada, FTR. I'm not sure. Depends how Dax is. But we could go on all night, Dave, and talking about it. But we've got lots going on here as well. Obviously, lots of review shows. Hoping to sit down with Jazz this week as well at some point, with any luck, scheduling permitted. Perhaps a recently released WWE wrestler as well may hop on. He was backstage at Forbidden Door last night as well. But we'll see. We'll see if we can ratio him to come on. We'll have another chat with him later on down the line. But we've got review shows coming out of our backside this week. Obviously, we're also building up to Buckle Up. We're less than 2 weeks away from Buckle Up 2024. There's less than 20 tickets available now. That will be your lot. If you're going to miss it, then well, up to you if you miss it really or not, to be quite frank. But I would get there if you want to see some of the best in British talent getting on the show. Then come down to Borehamwood, 96 Shenley Road, to watch our co-promoted show with Ignite. And as always, as it's fight week or show week, fight week next week, CJ Carter will be joining us. The GM of Ignite will be joining us right here on the channel to discuss Buckle Up 2 and the September show, Aftermath. But Dave, it's always good talking wrestling with you, regardless of whatever promotion it is. But as it is the signature AEW promotion, you can do the signature sign off.
Time to bid you all adieu, goodbye, mwah, and good night. Bang.
And stay elite, everybody.